WNST, Tassel, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are positively taking the show out on the road. If you've been listening, you do know this. All of our friends, sponsors, clients, political people, all sorts of athletes, all sorts of people coming out and doing things here. It is the Maryland Crab Cake Tour presented by the Maryland Lottery in conjunction with our friends at Win Donation and Jiffy Lube Multicare. It's coming to Coco's on Wednesday. We're going to be at the BMA at Gertrude's on Thursday. Really looking forward to that crab cake and a chat with John Shields, who apparently has some sort of like Maryland-style Old Bay peanut brittle, which he's going to lay on me as well. Friday, we're going to be back up at Hollywood Casino in Perryville. Tom Kelso, former Maryland Stadium Authority chairman, will be with us. And then this is going to be the fun part. Next week, we really get into the holidays. Like next week's the week I allow Mariah Carey to be played around here. I start to sing, Do They Know It's Christmas Time and stuff like that. And we're going to begin our true Christmas seasonal fair at State Fair in Catonsville. We'll be there on Tuesday morning doing a special coffee chat with friends and sponsors. Bill Cole, I have the Cole Roofing mug out with the Royal Farms coffee in it. When I get together at State Fair, and it won't be Royal Farms coffee next Tuesday, it'll be that French press that they make there at State Fair for me. It gets me all amped up, and I'll have some chicken and waffles and whatnot. But I get over there on a Tuesday morning, you, me, and Dennis, and it reminds me of my early days in radio when Harry Shriver, who was the original, if you think of Oriole Magic and how Oriole Magic happened, Harry Shriver was the guy that did that. He was the guy who ran WFBR, who put Ekman on the air, sometimes inebriated, sometimes not, hired John Miller. That's all Harry Shriver did, all that, the late, great Harry Shriver. And Harry loved afternoon live. He had this thing called Conference Call that he put on the air. I think it's CAO or CBM 100 years ago. And it would be like you, me, Dennis, and Leonard. And man, wouldn't that be a group, right? You have me. I can't think of four more different human beings, right? Like, Dennis is Greek, old country, runs a car dealership, grew up on the east side, went Sedonia, played football at EVT. Leonard grew up out of Liberty Road and Reisterstown Road and manages money. And then there's you running around on roofs, 3 generations since 1919, same as my dad. And then there's me. And the four of us would get together and talk about ish. I don't even know what it's going to be. But I'm figuring that's at 55, that's where Baltimore Positive's leaning now. It's you, me, and Dennis getting coffee and shrimp and grits over at State Fair and saying, are the Ravens a fluke? Are the Ravens a fluke, Bill Cole?
I mean, I really hope that, and no disrespect to Dennis or oh man, what's the other guy? Leonard. Sorry, yeah, Raskin. Right. Like, you better pull better guess than that, or Baltimore Positive's going to go down.
I don't know, man. The four of you. So the four of us, I should say.
Thought,
but you and Dennis getting together, I don't even know if you and Dennis have ever been in a room together. You're on the radio together all the time.
I don't think we've ever met.
That's part of the plague, right? Like I birthed Baltimore Positive during the plague. And I remember, and I told my wife this because like we're doing this thing next week with Dan Rodricks, and Dan's going to be on the show Thursday over at the BMA, and we're going to feature the BMA folks, and Odette Ramos, Councilwoman Ramos is coming over. It's her district. She eats a vegan crab cake, and John apparently makes a pretty good one over there at Gertrude's. So I get around and I'm doing all this stuff with sponsors and getting people out. I'll say this, man, sports. And where I am and changing from NST to Baltimore Positive and thinking like on a Monday morning after the Ravens win in LA, whether you'd rather listen to me and Luke talk intelligently or hear phone calls over at, corporately owned FM radio and whatnot. Yeah, you underestimate the power of 3 business owners from 3 sides of Baltimore to get together to bang pots and pans about whether Lamar Jackson's elite or not, right?
So I don't actually underestimate it, but I believe that it's appropriate for us to have an element of humbleness and just recognize that that would be a very different discussion. And maybe I think to the point of this, like maybe people enjoy that, right? Like,
they love conflict. Luke and I don't fight enough for them. I don't think.
I don't know all the stats, and I don't have the insider info. I'm just a dumb roofer watching the football game on Sunday night and saying, I can't believe the Chargers didn't beat us. Like, they seemingly moved the ball at will, And for once in my life, I felt like maybe the referees have been told that the Ravens are good for the NFL, so we get the benefit of the doubt. But then I
Dude,
can't
Geno Smith had 2
understand.
feet out of bounds when he pushed the quarterback.
Right. And it's not the first game where I felt like that. So that's why I'm thinking that, it's like the NBA referee guy who got in trouble for gambling at the same time. What was his
Well,
name?
there's no question that the New England Patriots got off scot-free for all the cheating they did, and that cheating and lying is a Harbaugh family trait at this point. The Matt Weiss thing and his brother out in Michigan. I mean, doing highly illicit stuff, right? And Michigan's going
So
to go play for the
much.
national championship.
Right.
So, like, it doesn't. The cheating pays off. You know what I mean? The
Well,
lying pays off, and like, I don't. I think
yeah,
there's a
I don't
point.
agree with that. I don't agree with that.
I mean, I think in the NFL, to your point, that Bob Kraft and the Patriots were given special treatment by the
I
commissioner.
think that
There's no question
refereeing,
about that.
I think that refereeing has so much subjectivity to it that when a capitalistic league tells the referees what is best for the league, that influences how a person will see a play. You can call
Well, if you
holding on
tell your
every
police
play.
department how to
We know that.
police, right? Like you and I can take
Sure,
this to another level.
sure,
How
sure,
you police is how you tell
sure,
your police department to police, right?
sure, sure. So I felt like maybe we're in the good graces, right? Like maybe the Ravens winning Lamar, all that is good for football. So we get the benefit of the doubt sometimes.
Lamar being
But
healthy is good for football, right? But so is Joe Burrow being healthy, and that's why you don't shove the quarterback out of bounds. Justin Herbert being healthy is good for the NFL. It was way better that he was playing than whoever the hell their backup quarterback was on Sunday night, right?
I
Like
think he's a
we're at the
player,
point in the
man.
year
I
where they
think he's
play
a
football
player.
all day Thursday, all day Friday,
Yeah.
so all night Sunday, all afternoon Monday. Like Christmas, they're playing every minute of the Christmas holiday. They're playing all day Christmas Day. They're playing 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock because they don't want the NBA getting in on Christmas Day because the NBA's gotten in on Christmas Day because they refused to play at one point, right? So they got games in 3 cities on Christmas Day. They have a game on Christmas Eve night.
Right.
Like Christmas Eve night, like my family's having dinner like 55 years now. It's been going on. So
Yeah.
to think that the league and throwing media members at, by the way, the Charlotte Observer, I'll give you a little, the guy Tepper, richest guy in America, right? Tepper owns the Panthers, fired the head coach, who is Frank Reich, architect of the greatest comeback in NFL history. He's won Super Bowls, Philly special, like Frank Reich, a man of God. I mean, Frank Reich would never do anything wrong, right? Like Frank Reich's a straight. He a Terp too. I forgot he a Terp, right? Gets fired,
Frank
and
Reich has a good reputation.
the
Yes.
columnist from the Charlotte Observer, the Mike Preston, sat in the front row, raising his hand to ask a question, and the Chad Steele of the Panthers refused to call on him at a press conference. This happened 36 hours ago. We're going to the point where, to your point, the officials, there's no accountability. They have a commissioner who has $1 billion in the bank. The man who runs the league has become a billionaire as the CEO of the company, right? They've gone legal with gambling and I always say this to John Martin. I mean, God knows I respect my gambling money. I'm going to be at Hollywood Casino. I give away lottery tickets. I'll be giving them away all week. The lottery isn't rigged. The lottery isn't John Martin decides red or black or fair or unfair or foul or no foul or flag or no flag. Like,
right.
They are policing who's winning bets. Like, at some point, that's going to wind up in D.C. under the little white thing that Trump tried to take over 3 years ago. Like, at some point, it's not going to go. The part that you jump in on is when there's a bad call from an official, whatever the bad call is. The league's rigged now, and that's your independence. That's your not being a Democrat or Republican. It's sort of questioning everything. But I see it along Twitter, X, whatever the hell they're threads, whatever they're calling it this week. whenever
Well,
these calls are made, everybody thinks the league's rigged, and people think the league's rigged because Bubba Smith said it was 50 years ago, right?
yeah, I rigged is an extremely
I never say that, by the way. I
yeah,
don't.
rigged
You'll
is hard.
you will
Rigged is
never see the
hard.
piece on me saying the referees are crooked. I think
Influenced is all I'm saying.
okay.
If you don't believe, I mean, look,
Well,
that
they're
occurs.
undercompensated based on
It
the fact that they're making calls that literally billions of dollars are going to
right,
flush left or right on whether that's a 15-yard penalty and the Chargers go in and lead 7-0 or not, right?
like we've talked a number of times about like my coaching my daughters and I coached my son and like the way I coach is we have to play the game in a way that eliminates refereeing from influencing the outcome. Like we have to have such a lead, we have to be in such control because they're humans and by nature they're going to make a mistake. And we don't want that one mistake to be the difference in the game. So we're going to win in spite of, right? In
But that's
spite
when
of
the
the
league said we're
officiating.
going to get replay, right? I mean,
Yeah,
at some point, if they were really serious about first downs, that the ball would be chipped, right? Like literally, 10 yards would be 10
right.
yards and it would be chipped. If they were
It'd be
really
where
measuring
you
this
on
thing and we were playing
right,
checkers or chess or dominoes
right,
where there's
right,
an absolute answer, right?
right,
Even a roll of the dice where there's an absolute answer, as opposed to, well, this official spotted it here and that official spotted it there. And you
right,
know, in that 30 seconds, like seriously, in that 8 seconds where the female line judge comes down with the ponytail, the referee comes over, the back judge, they all look at each other. You know, at that moment, they're just guessing. You know, at
well,
that moment, they have a difference of opinion
right.
based on where they were. And now the video is supposed to be the. And Bill, we're going to see this now that we're betting on baseball and we're betting on every pitch. I mean, I have never heard or seen a bunch of old white people yell for computers more than they do
Right,
around the strike zone for baseball because it's
right.
on every pitch on video and Ben
Yeah,
McDonald and Jim Palmer are reacting to it. And the thing that always weirds me out is the box is always the same. I'm 5'9"
right,
and Aaron Judge
right,
is 6'10" and we have the same strike zone.
right.
Like all of this
Yeah.
sports stuff has always been judgmental, very nebulous, very open. I'm going to call Nasty Nestor on Monday and say the referees are rigged because Bubba Smith told me they were, and I bet on the Ravens the other night. They didn't cover. So I've been hearing that forever, but if they wanted this
They're
to be
not
right, if they
rigged.
wanted this to be measured, it would be properly measured. It really would be. It'd be
It's not
better than
right.
9 referees who fly in from their roofing job and run around and try to figure out where the ball landed.
It's not rigged. It's just influence, right? Like the you got to watch the documentary
I
about
think it's more incompetent than it
Tim
is
Donaghy
rigged.
or whatever. No, I think those guys are really good. Actually, I mean, I think the referees are really good. Like you have to understand, like you're attempting to keep track of, you know, 4 240 guys, and they weigh 280 pounds. And I mean, look, the
I've been
fun
on the field a million times. I mean, I'll never be on the field again, thanks to Chad Steele. Appreciate that, Chad, who was on the field sitting in the middle of the shot in the post game, which cracks me up. But he doesn't want his face on TV. But I've been down on the field. The referees, it's kind of like the scene in Animal House where the guy has the marbles. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
yeah,
all is well. And I mean, they're getting pushed. I saw the other day official got his jaw, and I'm surprised that doesn't happen more
right,
often in the scrums. But they're getting
totally.
yelled at the whole game. Harbaugh's yelling at him. Tomlin's yelling. Everybody's yelling at him, and they're trying to officiate the game. I mean, it's not. Marty Conway's an official. I have him on all the time, and my friend Ken, who comes out to a lot of our crap officials, it's really difficult, and that's my point. My point is, if the league wanted to get it right, they would go beyond human. They would go beyond video
Well,
that's poor. I mean, what's really poor is when the video shows something and they
yeah,
call it the other way. That's when you sit at home with your wife and say, "Well, it's not rigged; it's influenced."
right. I You can't totally take subjectivity out of it because there's holding on every play. but we only call holding if it influences the play, right? So like that's weird. Sure, we can measure stuff better. I agree, but we all recognize, and it's talked about all the time. They pick certain things, and we're gonna really focus on, oh, we're not gonna allow that, and in the NBA documentary thing about the guy who was gambling, they talked about one season the little hook move that Jordan would do on the baseline where he literally hooked him with his other arm. They wanted to start calling that. So he goes into a game and he starts calling it, and he calls it on Jordan. And they go to timeout, and the other officials come to him and they're like, "What are you, stupid? Yeah, we're supposed to call it, but we're not supposed to call it on him." So if we know that they are telling officials to focus on one rule and one interpretation of
Well,
the
we've heard
rule,
preferred strike zones for
that's
pitchers
yes, that
forever.
is. I mean, we know that that is part of the game, so you have to accept it. The point is, you got to play so that
I don't
that.
accept that as part of the game.
Oh
I think
man,
that's
how
where the
can you not?
commissioner can't run the game that way, and they can't if they're running the game to make things easier for Lamar than they're making because they love Lamar and Lamar's good for television. Then they're running a sham league.
No, they've been doing that forever. Think about all the changes they make on like receivers on the, can push them out and can't push them out. Pass interference, the horse
Dude,
collar
they don't get
tackle.
simple
Like
stuff
they
right.
do all kinds of
Belichick
stuff.
had monkeys and trees filming. Harbaugh's brother had the other Harbaugh's assistant, Matt Weiss. I got emails from Matt, like literally, openly, brazenly attempting to cheat. And I've always found that to be interesting about Harbaugh is like his whole thing is his whole background is in paranoia. Everything's paranoia, paranoia. The people that are the most paranoid are the people that cheat. I mean, Belichick had made a career out of this. Taking air out of the footballs is a real thing. Like that's not a joke. We turned it into Deflategate, all of that. It made them not fumble the football. Like if you go back and you look at the statistics of the New England Patriots, more than any team in the history of teams, they never fumbled the football at home ever, and they ran the ball in the cold all the time and never fumbled it because there was no air in the football. And I remember that from playing on the fields at Colgate Elementary when I was 9 years old. When the ball was squishier, you couldn't punch it out. This isn't rocket science. So they didn't pay any price for that, like at all. And so they're cheating at the highest level, cheating each other. I mean,
So
come on, man. We're in a
is
conversation here.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They don't even have the integrity to like say what is and isn't a real media member. Like I just told you in
I
Charlotte, the owner won't take questions after firing his third coach in 4 years.
we've talked about that a little
They have an
bit.
accountability issue, and
No, they have a
but the
control
refereeing
of their
sits in the
product
middle
issue.
of the squishiness of where it affects the outcomes of games and it affects your bet.
You
And
need to know,
that's why it gets talked about.
you need to know going in that they are 100% working every day to control their product. They are trying to control their product and make as much money as possible.
Well, how about
So
this? How about this, dude?
so
Joe Burrow
anything,
last week with the thing on his arm, right? It would have affected
of course it
the
would.
line, right?
Of course it
So
would.
Cincinnati hit it in the same way that Chad Steele throwing me out allows one less person in there to know anything or to ask anything or to find anything out. And the Cincinnati Bengals
They're
pulled one
different.
over. The league then goes out to Mike Florio and in the post-game show, oh, we're going to be looking at this because you know what? This affects your money, your bets. Bet,
Right.
bet, 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 bet. This affects your bets. It affects the competitive balance of the game. Harbaugh would do that in a heartbeat. They all would,
Oh,
and that's
right. And
part of the
the
problem is
difference,
that you're trying to get honor amongst thieves, like
yes,
literally.
yes.
That's
Don't
why it
have
needs to be harder policed.
don't have an expectation that the minute you mix sports, which drives the uber competitive to work so hard that they've got to the pinnacle of their sport,
They would stick needles in their arms
that
to
they
hit
would
more
do
home runs.
anything. They
Right,
will do
exactly.
anything to win. And then add on top of that billions of dollars. Like, you can't underestimate that the combination of those two are going to create outcomes that you and I see as
We
less
couldn't
than having
believe that somebody
integrity.
would cheat to win a bike race, right? Like, imagine how much you would cheat to win an NFL game
Anything, right? And so,
or to beat Ohio State in the
but
case of
there
Jim
is a
Harbaugh.
difference. Hold on, Ness. There is a difference, right? There is a difference between pushing the media out, okay, and then going to your state and local governments and asking for $1 billion, 600 million, wherever that number lands, okay? Because when you don't give me, as a taxpayer, transparency and access, then you are not entitled to my tax dollars. That's a difference. If you want to be a completely private enterprise, you can behave any way you want, and then it's up to us to decide whether we want to buy your product, right? But the minute you start taking tax dollars, there's a different standard of care, in my opinion, right? You have to
That should be
be.
everybody's opinion, Bill. And you've just
I
said it
don't know
very
that it
eloquently,
is. I don't
like
know
to the
that it
point where I'm
is.
going to transcribe that and pull it out and use that as a quote for all times, right? Like, literally, I don't know that you could repeat what you just said because it was so beautiful, but yeah, like, true. Yeah,
Well,
you're taking
my
our
core
money,
problem,
you're held to a higher standard.
my core problem is that not everybody that paid into that pool gives, two-ish about football, right? Like, there's a lot of people who don't. And there's a lot of people who don't go to those games, and there's a lot of people that don't watch them on TV, and they can literally care less. But for the civic good, this decision is made. I appreciate
I
that.
have
I
argued on
understand it.
behalf of that for 37 of my 39 years here. And I'm still not even arguing against it with Tom Kelso this week at the Hollywood Casino up in Perryville. We are educating people as to what the deal is. You
Sure.
know what I mean? Like the fact that it's already happened. You already given them $1.2 billion. And they're like Oliver Twist. They said, please, more, more. That's not enough. And that's where this is with Angelos. I mean, Bisciotti's half embarrassed about all of this because he doesn't want any questions. He doesn't want any oversight. He doesn't want questions from me. He doesn't want to deal with me down in Florida asking him about this money and what he's going to do with it, or Chad Steele, or Sashi Brown, whoever the hell he is. That their whole thing here, and this is the real story, is they don't have to fight. They've got Fredo out in front with a lawyer from Venable running the Maryland Stadium Authority, Craig Thompson, Wes Moore, who's gone code silence so far with me, and at some point we're going to have answers. They bled some stuff to Jeff Barker the other day that's sort of the bell toward Angelo saying, well, we just might have to go our separate ways and do, set by quasi partnership. Well, where's your idea? I'm going to keep coming back to this. And when I sit with Governor Wes Moore, who I like, who I voted for, who I vehemently disagree with, I believe so far, but I haven't been given the chance to disagree with him because I haven't talked to him. I would say to them, what's the plan? What's the mixed use, work, live, play? Show me the architect. Show me the plan. We have that now. You and I got together a couple weeks ago down at Fadley's, and we talked at length. Jeffrey Ratnow joined us talking about the land development of Harbor Place. There's blueprints, there's studies, there's money spent. There's all of the things that you as a roofer wouldn't say, what kind of roof are we going to have on that? We don't even have a concept on this bill, and we're talking about giving them more money than the $1.2 billion we've already given them, giving them land that they have already misappropriated and can't use and have never found a use for other than a parking lot. And to throw people like me off when I handed Clobber's Cleveland signs and spanked the Yankee signs out back in 1996 and 97 when I had the civic pride to support them, because it said, well, it didn't say Baltimore in the jersey then, but I was trying to get it to say Baltimore in the jersey. It does now. But I've been at this a long time, and I've been thrown out by both of them, but that doesn't stop anybody from listening to me, and it certainly doesn't stop the facts from flowing in. And to your point, where these franchises are going, the stadiums are built. Now it's what gravy, what cherry on top, what whipped cream, what are we going to put around these stadia? Because as Tom Kelso said, stadiums have been here 3 decades. They are what they are. They generate what they generate. People come, people go, they park. Team's good, they'll come. Team's bad, they won't go. We know all of that. But that land down there has been there for 30 years. What's going to make you and your family come down there at times when there's not a game? And the Orioles this week, by the way, Bill, I don't know if you saw this. They released a schedule for the lease that they don't have. They're playing games in a stadium they don't have a lease for. They haven't agreed to terms. $600 million wasn't enough for them. And free rent, basically, free rent for 100 years. That's not enough. They're playing 6:35 now every night, right? Which I would say for you and me at home watching the game, it's great. Game starts a little earlier, fits dinner in, it's over at 9 o'clock. It's great. How does that help downtown? 6:35 games. There's no dinner. You're not helping any of the restaurants downtown. You're barely getting people there. And I'm just saying, it's good for baseball, it's good for TV, but 6:35, you're moving your games to then. How does that help my city if I'm the mayor, if I'm the governor, if I'm living where I was living? Like, how is that going to help the city? How does that make it better for business there? It makes it better for one business, the Angelos family. That's who it makes it better for.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about that. I didn't realize that
you got
was...
me going today, dude. You pissed me off.
Yeah, I didn't know that was on the thing, but so understand that the 1.2 billion, like Tom Kelso said, that was legislated. That was like Maryland legislators got together and they passed a bill. So
And nobody voted on, nobody said a word. There was zero conversation about it at any point on this show, anywhere else. Hey, we got to invest in the teams. And I will agree with that. Hey, we got to make that area better. I think we're all in agreement on that, right? Are you in agreement with that?
I don't know. I don't have enough information to know. Like I look, I'm in the camp of I know that for a period of time, America thought that investing in pro sports teams in your urban sphere was good for, the city. I don't know if I agree with that. If I had $1.2 billion to do whatever I wanted with to lift up the city, I'm not sure putting more bathrooms in the stadium would be the thing that I would do. Like, there's other stuff you can do with $1.2 billion that's going to have more impact on more people that live in this city. So I don't know. But my point about the legislation,
and by the way, they're not paupers. They make plenty of money.
Yeah.
They make plenty of money. They could appropriate money differently in their sport to pay Adley Rutschman $12 million a year instead of $32 million a year, and flush and get their own toilets to flush, and build their own casino on their own land, on their own stuff, and make their own parking money and all of that. Except that's not the way it's worked. And John Angelos knows this. His old man knew this. Major League Baseball knows this. It's get away with what you can get away with. Since the last time you and I got together at Fadley's with Matt Campbell and Jeff Ratnow 3 weeks ago, they have unanimously voted to move the Oakland Athletics to Las Vegas after 50 years of being there, right?
Right.
Unanimously.
I just think that, yes, I mean, what you're speaking to is the appearance of kingmakers, right? So you take wealthy people and you give them stuff that make them kings when maybe that's not necessary. I don't have any of the data to know whether the economic impact of 600 million to both those complexes can have more good.
Depends what you do with it, right? Like literally, right?
Right, totally. But my point of bringing up the legislation is like, legislation giveth, legislation taketh away. So like, there are processes where some of that stuff could change. And I think there's a very interesting, sentiment going on between our elected officials as to where they all sit on that. And,
well, this is going to go back to Annapolis either way. And that's the thing I'm going to get with Tom. It's sort of like, okay, 1.2, if that's not good enough for you, John, then we're going to have to go back to everybody. And the jerk from Dundalk, who's had the radio station for 25 years, is going to get mouthy. And he's going to bring other people on who are going to be mouthy about how much more we're going to give you than we've already given you, and how we're going to go back to the legislature and find more money from you, from Brooke Learman and from Derek Davis and from Wes Moore and from Salisbury politicians who might be Republican, might be Democrat, or Cumberland politicians, or Montgomery County and PG County who are going to vote on this too. And the question still comes back to, what's the idea? What are we giving you the money for other than we get to keep your lousy baseball team here? I mean, like,
Well,
what are we getting? What's going to be the end result of this? And John Angelos doesn't know his head from his ass. Like, anybody that's talked to him knows this. They have no plans, no blueprint. Nobody's been hired. He's a visionary without a vision. He's never run as a popsicle stand. They have not done anything in free agency. They poor mouth. They're still in the business of trying to intimidate the media. Me and Luke 6 weeks ago in Arlington, Texas, their own employees 12 weeks ago, free Kevin Brown. I mean, and they've won all these games, and they're not selling tickets, and they don't have a lease, and nobody's talking about them. They're all talking about the 9-3 football team, Bill. Honestly, everywhere I go in town, they're talking about the football team. Nobody's talking about the baseball team, and they should be.
Because and I don't think this is intentional, although, the skeptic in me wants to say that it is intentional. Like, if the piece that you did with Tom Kelso a couple weeks ago, like, anybody who wants to understand this or know more, like, they need to go listen to that, because
we're doing a recap on Friday, so like, we started really at the beginning of the beginning for this one.
But you got to go back and listen, because he lays a lot of the groundwork, and there's a lot of stuff that you start to understand better by what the two of you talked about. And I'm telling you right now, for the average fan, like 2 minutes into this topic, I'm glazed over. It's so sophisticated and so, like, complex that I'm just like, wait, what time's the game start again?
Well, this is what John Angelos hopes.
I think, that's what I'm saying. I don't know that it's all so dubious that in the beginning they wanted to make it so complicated that nobody would pay attention. That's probably like an unintended consequence that benefits the players.
And it did on the Masson deal too, big time. Just so you know, like, over the 20 years of Masson, how much money they've made and siphoned away from the Nationals, and all the juice they got added into this, that the stadium was empty. They were getting their ass kicked on the field, but they were making tons of family money while looking poor. Just so you know.
But just keep in mind that our elected officials don't have to have, a resume that includes understanding or have participated in or have defended against large scale civic development. You know what I mean? Like,
well, it's interesting with Wes Moore. Like when I get with Wes, he'll be smiling. But what the hell did Wes Moore know about the Orioles and the Ravens a year and a half ago when he's running for office about this stadium deal? I've known everything about it because it's been my business to know everything about it for 25 years. It's like when Angelos flippantly said to Dan Connolly on Martin Luther King Day last year, like, talking down to Dan, and Dan's like, "This is what I do for a living. What rock do you think? I do this professionally, pal. Don't speak to me like that." And that's why John Angelos wouldn't get in a room with me, because I know too much for me to sit with him. And a lot of people don't. And to your point, why would Wes Moore know anything about a parity clause in a Maryland, like running Robin Hood and doing what he was doing? Why would he know anything about this? And like, all of the esoterics of this, it feels to me like Wes puts an Oriole jersey on and goes out there and runs around. And I've just never seen a governor want to do that in the middle of a negotiation. And I've had a lot of people say to me it makes them itchy. And I don't know why it doesn't make Wes itchy. And I don't know why he thinks running around with John Angelos is going to, like, win the public sentiment. I mean, John Angelos can't find anybody to sit in that box with him. As Dennis points out, he can't even get his family to sit in the box.
I would sit in the box with him.
Would you?
Sure. I mean, think about all the things I want to ask him. Like, he might not answer me, and I might be out of there in 5 minutes.
Well, that's why you wouldn't be in the box, because you have questions.
Except that, like,
he's not even a citizen of the state, and we're giving him all this money. It's crazy.
But I would respect the fact that he is, well, I don't even know the actual truth, but, like,
in charge.
Right. He is right. he is working as the person in charge of this. Like I would respect that, and I would want to understand
Look, if
how
John
to be
Angelos wants to
helpful.
come
How
on
to
here,
be
I'm not going to
helpful.
insult him or talk about his
Yeah,
dad.
like I
I'll
want
talk
to be
about the
helpful.
deal. I can
The
talk all
goal,
day about the deal.
the goal is to have a thriving Oriole team in a thriving building and facility that increases the number of people who can come to the city and have a wonderful experience. That's the goal. It is a tourist attraction. Like people need to come there and spend money in the surrounding community, in the building, back and forth, the parking, all the whole deal. It goes into the city coffers, and then okay, then we can go down there and talk to them about how they need to spend it to help pick up the city. But that's the point of it. So, John, there has to be a way for you to make a crap ton of money and do this. Like other people are doing it in
Well,
other
the
cities.
hardest part, though, Bill, I mean, really, the hardest part here is his cowardice, right? And his inability to be front facing on this. When Larry Lucchino was looking for this money and Edward Bennett Williams was looking for this money 35 years ago, they were out in front of things. They were answering John Stedman's questions, tough questions, tough questions.
Yeah, but that isn't how the world works now, Ness.
Well, but
You come out in public and 100 people are destroying you. One person is supporting you.
That's
Because
fine.
the
That's
only
fine.
communication that exists
Well, the
is
guy,
all
Dean Harbors,
negative.
figured that out, right? Like,
Negative.
I've been inviting him on. Everybody's
All
killing him.
negative.
I'm not here to kill him. I'm here to, like, love the project up and understand it better. And at some point, you have to be front facing and sit on shows like this and answer questions. And it's simple. That's
I
all.
hear you, except if we sat down with our PR firm and our PR firm said, hey, look, let's figure this out. We need these 4 people to help us get this deal done.
Well, if Chad Steele's the
So
guy
those are the
sitting
only
in
4
there as the
people.
PR guy, then you have what you have. You know, you have an expert from out of town.
Yeah, I think I was thinking not the team's like John. I don't think he's going to the team's.
Look,
PR
Visit
person.
Baltimore just hired an agency, the 5th one in a row from out of town. You know, so it's sort of like putting people together and the relationships that you want, the Greater Baltimore Committee wants, the Downtown Partnership, and all of these groups, and you fly off and it's business owners. We want to go back to the days when all the banks were here and McCormick was downtown and Black and Decker and like all of that. At some point, the guys who own the teams have to be front facing. And Sashi Brown can't make his first move getting rid of a 30-year reporter's press credentials and hiding, except when he shows up for pictures that look real wistful and taken by the Baltimore Ravens staff out on the field. Like at some point, you have to do what Dick Cass did for 20 years, which is come out and answer questions and meet the PSL owners and be front facing and talk about future plans and talk about your goals and your dreams. Talk about your challenges. Answer your critics. All of that stuff.
I
you
hear
know?
you, but you literally, unless you have more information that I don't know, you like sort of affirmed my position. Visit Baltimore hires an out-of-state firm, and that is perceived in your default position as negative. You don't know whether they were the best firm for the job. You don't like, but you view that as
Dude, their
default
whole
position as
concept
negative.
is to do stuff locally, and the first chance they get, they don't.
I hear you.
I'll go the
but
other way
my
with that,
set-
Bill.
my-
There has to be somebody here who could do it really well. And there has to be somebody here who could do it better than somebody can do it from out of town. I promise you that. I put the Fan on today. They're run by Odyssey. Put any of these out of town. Dude, you're Cole freaking Roofing. You're local since 1919. There's no way National Roofing is going to do the job in Baltimore better than you're going to do it. Like, it's just not. And I'm not anti guys from out of town. I like out of town guys. I have all sorts of friends that came from out of town and made this their hometown. But there has to be a point where if you're pitching local, then be local. Live here.
All I'm telling
you
$1
billion from the state. Claim residency in Maryland. How about that?
Those national firms that I compete against, they do business here. And for one reason or another, their business model and their buyer, their customer is aligned better than me, right? My only goal is they at least know what my offer is.
Well, you
Because
can't say shop local on Saturday and Cyber Monday and local business Saturday and local, and then
I
when
hear
given the
you.
chance, hire the guy from out of town. Like
I
I don't
know. But
that
the point I'm trying to make, Ness, is we don't give anyone the ability to defend their position because we have a mouthpiece, right? That people immediately can go to, make their own judgment, and then spew negativity. So, as a person who you want to be out in front of stuff, if you don't give Al, I'm sure Al's still running Visit Baltimore, right? If you don't give Al time, and it might take an hour and a half to explain why they hired the firm they hired. Maybe it's crap, maybe it's bad, maybe it's good. It doesn't matter. Our world does not afford people the 90 minutes that it would take to understand that decision. So our default position is, well, that doesn't fit the model. And it doesn't. I hear you. That
it
doesn't
doesn't
fit
fit
the
the
model.
message.
Yeah,
It's
I
not.
get it.
It's bad messaging.
So isn't there, don't you believe there has to be a reason? Like, that's my only question to the universe. If it doesn't fit the message, don't you think that there has to be a reason? Or is this person, do we just believe that everyone is idiots and they're out to screw us all?
I don't know.
Right. Because I don't know either.
That
And
would depress me.
it is, but that's our default position because we go to the negative all the time. And because of social media, we have this huge megaphone. Like, I don't envy those people's positions at all, right? I don't envy John's position to try and get this figured out because there is no winning for him. There's no winning. Either he gets lots of
But there
money
could be
and everybody
accountability.
hates him. I'm for that. I'm
Accountability's
all for
free.
that.
If you don't have that, then what do you have? You have nothing. And that's
I
what I would say
agree.
to Chad Steele and Sashi Brown and Steve Bisciotti and John Angelos is that I'm here talking about it for tens of thousands of people. I promise you, I've seen my numbers. They've gone up. John Eisenberg and I did a piece last week, and people are clicking on it because people are interested in it. You know why they're interested? It's their money. They know how incompetent the Angelos family has been. They see that the football team, God bless them and all, it doesn't bring anything to the city. I mean, they go down, they play for 3 hours 8 times a year, and that unto itself does not populate the city. Sunday afternoon games, even the Monday night games are worse because nobody gets there. I mean, there is no impact to the city on those game nights. The baseball thing, you could make a great case that I remember what 3.5 million people look like down there. And I'm old enough to remember that. And I'm old enough to remember what a vibrant, I paid for it. In my tax dollars as a resident, I lived downtown for 19 years. I speak of real experience and seeing
Well,
it become tumbleweed and seeing it go
yeah,
away. And now see them make decisions like 6:30 baseball is good for the Orioles. Well, it's good for the Orioles. It's not good for Phillips. It's not good. It's not good for Ruth Chris. It's not good for Morton's. It's not good for any of that stuff down there. But I don't know that it ever was, or I don't know that it was ever designed to be. And certainly now it's designed to do nothing except funnel people into the Angelos Emporium. That's the baseball model. The baseball model is going to be, we're going to build a bigger, better Dempsey's and put kick our MVP's name off the wall so we can put gambling in there. And we're going to do all of this stuff to benefit the Orioles, not to benefit the city. So when he starts talking about benefiting the city, that's when I'm going to call bullshit on that. And that's why he doesn't want to sit with me because they've never made a decision ever in 30 years. Peter G. Angelos never made any decision that ever had anything to do with helping anybody but Peter G. Angelos. And that's a track record. I'll die on that hill. And I've watched it. And the battery in Atlanta, it benefits all of them. I've been in downtown San Diego. I've been in these places where they've tried to your point, have this civic dream that baseball will anchor an area and allow nightlife, dinner, other business, commerce, foot traffic, less crime, all the more bodies, all of that you want to see. But and Bill, we're going overtime on this. You and I are going to get together Tuesday at State Fair. Bill Cole's here, Cole Roofing, Gordian Energy, my dear friend that I like to fight with sometimes. Leonard Raskin's going to be here, and Dennis is coming over to State Fair on Tuesday too. So it might get a little spicier in the holidays. I would just say this, and you can give me your soliloquy on it. What's the idea? You know, that's I'm going to keep going back to money, 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 money. Money's not going to generate the idea. I mean, the buildings are there, the warehouse is there, the land's there, the harbor's there. All that's there. What's the idea? And it's not Top Golf, by the way. They found that out.
Yeah, I don't have any issue with that question. If you want more money, you have to tell me why. So, and as far as I'm concerned, like, I'm unaware of any tax dollars that get spent without oversight. So, like, for them to take that position is kind of like
A non-starter. It should be a
yeah,
non-starter
right,
for the governor
right,
of Maryland. It should be a
right,
non-starter for
right,
the governor of Maryland, whatever his name is, whatever his Democrat, Republican, black, white,
right,
women, female, Martian.
right.
The public position for the governor of Maryland should be that. That right there. What's the idea? How does it benefit the citizens? And where's the oversight? And do we keep do the people have their thumb on this? Do we have oversight for what we're giving you this free money for to
Right,
benefit our community? And
right.
that's a question you can love the Orioles. I've loved the Orioles despite the fact they don't love me. I've loved the Ravens before they existed. I loved them into existence back in the air in the day. So I'll be here when Chad Steele's gone, and John Harbaugh's gone, and Eric DeCosta's gone, and Steve Bisciotti's gone. I'm going to live long enough to do that. So I'll be here when all of this is over with. I'm worried about what they're doing, what kind of heist they're trying to pull, and I'm on it. And people should
I
be appreciative that somebody's on it.
I see it as a significantly missed opportunity, right? Like, if you look at what Dave Bramble is trying to do, right? And the importance of that project, and he is efforting to really get everyone to embrace this concept. Now, look, hey, we got to make some decisions. Some people are going to like them, some people aren't. Here's why we made them. Here's what benefits it brings. They've been listening, but the idea is that we need, in our case, maybe it's a handful, but sometimes it can just be one. You need one big thing for the community to rally around, and for it to be the thing that gets people to change the narrative. Like, our
Nobody
biggest
is going to
problem,
rally around the Angelos family here.
I get it.
I mean, I'm just being honest with you. And
I get
I will
it
stand on the
because
front
they're
of that.
making it
I'll
about
hold the
that.
Free the Birds flag from
I
18
know.
years ago. There is not going to be a point where Westmore stands and says, "Meet John Angelos. He's the visionary." Stop with that, dude. I mean, come on now. I mean,
I
come on.
gotcha.
Come
No, no,
on.
no. I gotcha. What I'm saying is, you have to change. The number one narrative problem we have is still the story that's being told by other people about Baltimore.
Correct.
People that come here, they love it. Everything's cool. We have a wonderful town and it thrives. So, but one of these big projects can change that narrative, right? It can change the way people talk about the city. So, if you're trying to do a $1.2 billion stadium deal, right? Like, figure out a way to get everybody to rally around it. Figure out a way for it to change the narrative. Talk about the things that it's going to improve. And it isn't better televisions or faster elevators, right? Like, that isn't it. Those are the opportunities that they have. Right now, again, to your point, it's about Angelos, it's about capitalism, it's about big development, it's about professional sports. They're missing the opportunity that if they just could figure out a way to tell this story,
To make it about Baltimore, they might win.
they might get twice as much gosh darn money, right? Because who isn't going to get behind that?
I hear
So
you, man. Bill Cole's here. Tell me what you do getting up on roofs. What's the roofing business? Cold to be on roofs this morning. Damn, you guys are party out there, man. You do
it
things the
is
right way.
cold. It's cold, but we're powering through. Everything's really good. People are still having to fix their roofs. Sorry, but that's kind of good for me. Again, it remains this thing where, like, look, if you just do some proactive maintenance, it will extend the life of your roof and you will save money in the long run. So we
Get a
are,
guy out on your roof to look because you haven't been up on your roof lately.
yeah,
And
if
you
I
call
find a
Bill,
little
and Bill sends a
problem,
guy. He's done it for me. And he gets up on the roof and says, "Yeah, this next 5 years, this is going to be happy. You might want to put a little money in the piggy bank, for 2026, 27. And by then, maybe we could do solar for you. Maybe we can't. But at least there's, to your point, we have an adult conversation. We have a strategy. There's a plan. There's a plan. Give me a plan, right?
yeah, I have not met a customer, and I've been doing this a pretty long time. I haven't met a customer yet who was actually thrilled about buying a new roof.
Right.
Like,
That's
like
a good
it's
point.
not a new car. It's not something that you enjoy. Like, it's a necessary evil. We appreciate that. Uh, I would like you to prolong that purchase as much as possible. And there's literally things we can do that if
You
we
know what?
catch,
I think it death taxes, right? The things,
yeah,
roofs, right? You have to have a roof,
yeah.
like a roof over your head, right? Like
And
literally.
I can appreciate sometimes in like residential circumstances, like if you bought a metal roof, like some people that would really be a fun experience for them. It would change the aesthetics of the house and they might really like it. And it just has a little more to it. In commercial roofing, you don't see it. It literally is just an umbrella for your building. And, our concept of how much it costs is not very, very good. So there's always a little sticker shock
How much?
initially. And right. So I've been through all those conversations.
It's
So I
freaking
totally get
tar.
it.
How much can it cost?
I
Right. Yeah.
totally get it. I totally get it.
And then I
I
see
want
like
to
12
make
of your
it,
guys up on the roof and it's 12 degrees out and they're hauling stuff up and the steam's coming off of that. And I was like, yeah, tough work you guys do. But
yeah.
yeah, be proactive. Give Bill Cole a ring. Find him at Cole Roofing. Find him out at the front of Baltimore Positive. If you are in the business space and you see, if you have a roof, everybody has a roof. So if your building has a roof, Bill can be there. I'm sorry we fought so much here this week about this, but it's a lot of money, and I don't think enough people are talking about it, Bill.
I don't define what we just did as fought, so it's cool. I thought we had a very passionate discussion, and
I really do
it's
want to get David Bramble on the show. So anybody who knows David Bramble, tell him to come on here because I really want to understand what they're doing, and I don't want to ask other people about it. I want to ask him. So,
right.
I am not a negative. I'm Baltimore positive, right? Like, if this is good for the city, show me how it's good for the city. And that goes for John Angelos and Sashi Brown and everybody else that's ducking me lately. Governor Westmore's not ducking me. He's going to be here soon. He's been emailing me. We're trying to put a date together later on in the month. We're going to be doing the Maryland Crab Cake Tour all month long. 3 in a row this week. Coco's on Wednesday. Gertrude's on Thursday. Friday at the Hollywood Casino in Perryville. Then next week, we're at State Fair in Catonsville. We're going to be at Far and Dodder and Curio Wellness on the 15th. We're also putting a show into Wise Markets up in Honeygo. I'm working on the date on that. And we're going to end the year, and Bill will appreciate this because deviled eggs will be involved. We're going to be at Fadley's to end the Fadley's run of 160 years at the world famous Lexington Market. They're moving into the new market in January, so we'll do that later on in the month. It's December. It's coming in like a lion. The Ravens are 9-3. We're on bye week. We're doing tons of Crab Cake Tour conversations, talking to lots of friends, talking about the stadium situation and $1.2 billion of your money. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking. Baltimore positive.